Macy, and welcome to Aunt's Table for Two. This cooking show features quick and easy two-serving recipes. Now, if you're looking for a gourmet cooking show, this is not it. You're in the wrong place. But if you love food that's full of flavor and quick and easy to prepare without using exotic ingredients, then you're going to love this program, even if you cook for more than 2 people. So stay tuned. I got a great show for you today. Thank you. Today's show is all about breakfast. I'm going to start with my rum raisin French toast, baked to a golden brown and drizzled with hot, buttery maple rum syrup. Then I'll show you how to bake a tomato frittata with freshly chopped tomatoes and just a hint of fresh basil. And finally, I'll give you a quick and easy way to make fresh raspberry cheese Danish just for 2. Today is the first episode of Aunt's Table for Two. Now, I'm telling you this for a reason. First of all, I want you to be very forgiving. And second of all, when I become the next Food Network star, then I want you to be able to say, I saw her on her first show, and she was awful. So today I'm going to start out with my rum raisin French toast. It's a wonderful, lovely little meal that I like to have on a day when it's either snowing out or it's I can have it on the patio in the summer, or one day when I don't have to go to work. So the first thing I'm going to do is I have 2 teaspoons of butter, and I'm going to melt that. For just about 15 seconds. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut up 3 slices of cinnamon raisin bread into about 1/2-inch squares, cubes. And I can hear my butter melting, so I'm going to get that out now. And I want you to watch this. This is important. See how I'm running the butter around the bowl? And I didn't take the bowl and put the bread in it and then toss the bread and the butter together. The reason why you don't want to do that is because then you will douse all of, one part of the bread, and then some of it will be dry, and you don't need to do that. Just get my spatula. As I said, I need for you to be very forgiving. Now I have a preheated 375-degree oven. I'm just going to get these as coated as I can. Then I'm going to take my 8-inch loaf pan. Now, I do talk in my cookbook about a 6-inch loaf pan, but that's not what we're going to use right now. This is the regular 8x4 by 2.5-inch loaf pan. And I'm going to put, let's see here, all of my bread and just kind of straighten it out. Then I'm going to use the same bowl, and I'm going to take an egg. Now please, you got to remember one thing here. You never put an egg, when you crack it open separately, because you don't want to mess up everything else. So, although I could have put it in that bowl because there's nothing else in it. And I've got a 1/2 cup of milk, and I got 1.5 teaspoons of brown sugar, and a pinch of cinnamon. A pinch is about 1/8 of a teaspoon for those of you who don't know, because my very best friend, she would call and ask me that. And then 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla extract. And there we go. And I'm just going to whisk that up. Now, French toast is called eggy bread in parts of the United Kingdom, and it's called, if I'm pronouncing it right, pain perdu in France. And again, if I'm saying that correctly. Now, what I'm going to do is just pour this over, making sure that all of my bread is soaked, and that is it. Now, I'm going to put this right in the oven, 375 degrees, preheated on the middle rack, and we're just going to put that in there for 22 minutes, and we'll be back in a few minutes. Welcome back to Ann's Table for Two. I've got my rum raisin French toast. It's ready to come out of the oven. And there's one thing I want you to remember about ovens. When I made this cookbook, I put it right over here and set it down to rest for a second. But when I started writing my cookbook, I lived in 3 different places, so I had 3 different ovens, which means that I had to adjust the timing on everything 3 different times. So, which I suggest that you do is anytime that you're cooking something and it says 20 to 22 minutes, check it at 20 minutes, and then then you can decide if it needs to go another 2 minutes or not. And what I did to test this is I just put a butter knife right in the center, and it was all set, so it's good to go. Now I'm just going to set this aside a little bit here. And I'm going to make my maple rum syrup. And what I have is I have 2 teaspoons of butter, and I have 1/4 teaspoon of maple syrup. That's going very slowly here. I'm so happy that this is not winter and it's freezing up. Okay, there we go. Okay. So that's all this maple rum syrup is maple syrup and butter, and of course, 1/4 teaspoon. I'm not going to put 1/4 teaspoon, just a dash of rum extract. There we go. That's a little bit more like 1/4 teaspoon. Okay, I just wanted a little dash there. You don't want to overpower it. Now I'm going to put it in the microwave for just about 15 seconds, just to let it heat up. And one of these little spoons here. Let that go for a minute. And this is going to be lovely. See if I can just get it to the side. This is the good thing about non-stick cooking spray. It's the best stuff for making things not stick. Let me check that. Well, okay. We're doing well here. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to garnish my plates. I have a little bit of, let me put this aside here. I have some bacon that I cooked during the break. This is ready to serve bacon that you put in the microwave for 15 seconds, 45 seconds if you like it crisp. I use nothing else because I'm a working girl. I don't have the time for that. So I'm going to take my 1 slice here and put it right on the plate. Now, as you know, my thing about cooking is it has to be quick and easy to prepare, and it has to look good, and it has to taste good. If it doesn't have all of those aspects to it, there's no sense in making it. Be better off if you just have somebody else go out there and cook it for you. All right, my maple rum syrup is ready to go. I'm just going to drizzle that on each plate. Oh, this is smelling good. So one thing about TV, you can't smell it, you can't taste it. Okay, this is good. And because it has to look pretty, I'm just going to give it a little garnish. I guess we'll just have to, one fell on the floor. We had to have something go wrong. So we're going to have to divide my garnish. And there we go. Let me get my fork. That's what it looks like. Oh, it's nice and light and fluffy. And it's very simple to make. And it tastes great, but you can't have any, I'm sorry. You're going to have to make it on your own. Better than I remember the last time I made it. And my little bacon goes very well with it. I got a little syrup on my face. So anyway, we'll be right back. I'm going to show you how to make a wonderful tomato frittata. We'll be back in a few minutes. Welcome back. I hope you're enjoying the show. I'm going to make for you now a tomato frittata, and a frittata is a little bit different than an omelet. So what I'm going to start out with is an onion roll. And don't cut your hand when you're doing that. I'm going to take a little bit of butter and I'm going to butter the cut side on both of these. Just a thin layer of butter. This is what makes it taste good. Not quite Paula Deen. She'd have half a pound on here, but I do like my butter too. Now I'm going to take 2 ramekins or souffle dishes, whichever you want to call them. It depends upon, I think, the company who's making them, what they call them. But these are about 5-inch, just enough so that the roll fits in it. Now, my trusty little nonstick cooking spray. I wish I had stocks in this stuff. By the way, I'm one of these kind of people who hates to throw anything away. So if you would like to have a little tip on what to do with this, my 5-year-old granddaughter thinks this is the greatest idea. I drilled a little hole in here with just a screwdriver. I put a green ribbon through it and tied it on the end, and we decorated it. We glued all kinds of white and green things on it. We hung it on the tree. It's her favorite Christmas ornament, so don't throw it away. There's always one more use for something before you throw it away. Green people would love me. I'm going to spray the inside of my ramekins. Make sure you get the sides. And then I'm going to put my buttered side down roll in each one. Okay, you see how that is. Get this out of the way. Then I'm going to take, I'll move this for a second. I'm going to have about 1/4 cup of chopped tomatoes. Now, you can use a plum tomato or whatever kind of tomato you want. I just like them chopped up, you know, kind of finely diced. Tomatoes are a good source of lycopene, and lycopene has been known, it's an antioxidant. And they're believing, and it hasn't totally been proven yet, but they think it's a good anti-cancer agent. We'll see. They may change that tomorrow, but for today, so I've got a nice little, these tomatoes are great. I got them very fresh, although I really wanted to get my tomatoes from my garden, but they're just not doing it this year. Now I'm going to put these on a paper towel because I want them to drain a little bit, and I think I want a little bit more tomato than that, so I'm going to chop up another 1/2 one. I love tomatoes in the summer. They're just, it's as good as corn in the summer. I only buy plum tomatoes in the winter because I can never find anything that's really edible. The ones that are usually you can find in the grocery store, they look like bleached tomatoes to me. I don't buy those. All right, so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take my 2 ramekins and I'm going to just spread the tomatoes on top here. See how I got all that liquid out of there? You don't want that in there. Although I've got a little bit more tomato here. Now, I know this is called a tomato frittata. If you want to keep this meatless, then what you're going to do is you want to skip the next step. I have some Canadian bacon here. Now, Canadian bacon is very low in fat, very low in calories. As you can see, it's a little different than that bacon that I had on as a side dish to my my rum raisin French toast. But I love Canadian bacon. It just gives it that nice little bit of saltiness. And I'm going to take that too. Spread that evenly on my top of my roll. The roll that I use is an onion roll. Now I've used Kaiser rolls, and I've used water rolls, I've used hamburger rolls, I've used wheat rolls. My favorite for this is an onion roll. It gives it that nice little extra little zip. Okay, then I'm going to get rid of this for the moment. I'm going to take a little bit of cheese. Now I'm using very sharp cheddar cheese. You can use any kind you want. Monterey Jack, you can use a mild cheddar cheese. Just enough to just, whatever your flavor is, you know, the intensity. I like a nice sharp cheese, especially when it's been cooked. Okay, so we're going to set that aside for a second. And I'm going to take 2 eggs, 2 whole eggs. And I want you to notice that again, I'm cracking the egg open in a different dish. The reason why is because if you have a bad egg, you don't want to destroy all the eggs. If I were to crack this open in here and this was a bad egg, you'd lose all of the eggs. You don't want to do that. Now I'm going to take 2 whole eggs and 2 egg whites. I'm skipping the egg yolks. Oops, I almost just messed up my rule here. taking those yolks out. And I am going to throw away the yolks. Although there's a lot of vitamin A in yolks, there's also a lot of cholesterol. And that's the reason why I'm just doing it with 2 eggs and I'm adding just 2 egg whites. But I would only say these if I'm making cookies. If you have a cookie recipe and it calls for a whole egg and you skip the egg white and make it with 2 egg yolks, you just can't believe the flakiness and the texture is so much better if you just use it with just the 2 egg yolks. I've tried it, it's great. All right, now I'm going to just whip this up a little bit. This is such a great thing to have, again, on a day off. Normally, my morning breakfast consists of 3 egg whites fried in nonstick cooking spray and a slice of whole wheat raisin toast with a little bit of butter. And my husband doesn't usually eat breakfast. So, but every once in a while, you want one of those nice little embellished breakfasts. So I'm going to pour this in evenly on top of all of my ingredients. And just gonna top it with just a little sprinkle of salt and a little bit of cracked pepper, and I'll move that again for 1 second, and I'm going to chop up some fresh basil. Just came out of my patio garden. Now you only want a hint of this basil. Basil, I love basil, but sometimes you just need just a hint of it and not like, you don't want it to overpower the whole dish. So just going to chop that up a bit and put that on here. There we go. And we're set to go. Now the difference between a frittata, I'm going to put just a speck more basil on. A frittata and an omelet is that an Italian frittata has the ingredients that are mixed into the eggs, and an omelet has it put on top and then it's folded over. That's good. All right. Now we're going to put this in the oven for 20 to 22 minutes on a 375 degree oven in the middle rack, and we're going to let that cook. And we will be back shortly with something else. See you in a few minutes. Welcome back to the show. I've got my tomato frittata ready to come out of the oven. It smells wonderful. Just gonna see if I can get them out of here without burning myself. They smell good. Okay, I'm going to set them over here to just cool off for a bit. Look at those. They look lovely, but they're going to rest and they're going to sink a little bit. So while those are resting, because they'll be too difficult to take out of the ramekins at the moment. So I just want them to rest. So I'm going to put that aside, and I'm going to do a little side dish garnish that is a little fruit that really complements this very well on one of those either, warm, cozy mornings in front of the fire on your day off. Some of those that I don't get very often. Just going to take a little piece of pineapple and a little orange, and watch how I do this, make this cute. I'm going to stick the toothpick inside the pineapple and then put the strawberry on so it doesn't fall off the side of the dish. So whoever you're cooking for, you can impress them a little bit with that. Of course, I tried to get the 2 best strawberries. There we go. And now lemon balm. I got to talk to you about lemon balm. I like to have a little garnish on my plates. I think it just dresses up everything. Lemon balm is one of the easiest things to grow. I do not have a green thumb. I can cook, make food taste really good, but growing things, forget that. But this lemon balm, it just comes out nice and fresh, and you can put it on anything. It's called lemon balm because it smells and tastes like lemon. So you can really put it on any dish. That's a little too big. There we go. Well, let's cut this down a little. So I have it growing out in a little pot on my patio. It looks lovely. It's nice and healthy and fresh. And there we go. We got a little side dish going there. Okay. Now, just move those aside. Let me check my tomato frittatas here. Oh, these smell so good. Yes, my nonstick cooking spray. Because of my nonstick cooking spray, we are all set here. That should come out lovely. There we go. Look at how pretty. Woo! Take that out just like that. The thing about having the roll on the bottom is it keeps the egg all together and set. And you've got, you know, your egg and toast and with your veggies and your fruit. It's perfect. There we go. Isn't that lovely? Now, isn't that a beautiful thing to present on a Saturday morning, you know, when it's cold out, or on a nice summer morning out on the patio when it's sunny and you got a little shade under the umbrella? Like I said, I don't do this all the time, but you got to have those embellished breakfasts. Oh, it's hot. Can you see that steam? And again, if you want to make this a meatless meal, then you just, you know, skip the Canadian bacon. And you could, if you didn't want to make tomato or Canadian bacon in there, you can use broccoli if you wanted to, or cooked asparagus. Anything that's cooked. Just make sure that it's cooked, though. You've got to try this now. This recipe will be on my website if you want to check. It's www.annstablefor2.com, and this recipe will be on there if you want to find it. Some of my recipes will be on there, and unfortunately I can't put them all on, and there's a reason for that. So check my website, you'll find out what the reason is. Listen, we'll be back in just a few minutes. I've got a lovely raspberry cheese Danish for you. Coming right up. Welcome back. Now I'm going to make for you fresh raspberry cheese Danish, just for 2 people. Now I want you to notice that I have rolled out here already some crescent rolls, and they sell crescent rolls with just either 8 crescent rolls or 4 crescent rolls. This is the 4-ounce container of just 4 crescent rolls. So I've got it on here on a piece of wax paper that's been sprayed with nonstick cooking spray, and I'm going to just pinch the perforations together to make it so that there's no holes in it. Then I'm going to cut it into 4 pieces. And I'm just going to set, that didn't cut well. I sharpened these knives this morning. I'm going to set those aside for a minute, and I'm going to spray this again, and I'm going to just roll it out. Whoop. And then I'm going to just spray these so that I can randomly put it in. Now what I'm going to do here is put my dough inside one of my muffin cups now, and I'm going to make a little well. All right, and I'm going to do that with all 4 of these. Just roll those out. Put all 4 of them in here. And again, make the little well, because that's where the filling is going to go. Don't roll it out too much. I got this idea because one day it was a snowstorm, and I really wanted a strawberry, raspberry, some kind of a fruit cheese Danish. And I didn't want to go out. So I thought, you know, I've got some crescent rolls in here. You can be very creative with crescent rolls. I've got a couple of recipes actually in my cookbook that involve crescent rolls. But I just came up with this, and the first time I did it, it came out perfect. That doesn't always happen, by the way. But this time it did. All right, so I got my little wells here. And I'm going to set that aside. I've got 3 ounces of softened cream cheese, and I'm going to add to that 4 teaspoons of sugar and 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla extract and 1 egg yolk. Now I'm going to separate this. I'm going to keep the egg white, and you'll see why later. I'm going to set that aside. Then I'm going to take I think I'm going to mash this up a little bit with my spatula first. Now you don't want to use an electric mixer for this. The thing about cooking for 2 people when you're using an electric mixer is usually there's not enough food ingredients that most of it will stick to the electric mixer, so you don't want to do that. Now this looks very yellow, but it won't in a minute. Now this is the best way I have found to do it. You kind of smush it up first with a spatula, and then you take wire whisk. I love wire whisks. I have probably 10 of them in all different sizes. And just whip that up real well. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a spoon that I forgot to set out. Try to prep everything, you know. Doesn't always work. Okay, and I'm going to put a little bit, I'm just going to divide this into 4 sections and put a little bit of this cheese filling mixture inside my crescent rolls. Now don't want to lose any of that. All right, that's good. Okay, now one thing I do want to let you know that see how this perforation has separated? That's okay. If that happens, that's not a big deal. So now what I'm going to do is just kind of pull it out. The only reason why you use the muffin cup is because you want it to keep its shape. If you tried to put that on a flat surface, all of the cheese mixture would just kind of come out and it would go flat and you wouldn't have this nice little ball. So I have a jelly roll pan or a cookie sheet, either one. I've tucked all of this underneath here, and again, if it oozes out, it's not a big deal. I'm going to put it on a jelly roll pan that I have lined with aluminum foil because I don't feel like cleaning anything up. I never want to clean up. I like to cook. Cleaning up is not really my thing. So just going to take these and kind of like fold everything over. And you can pinch the sides if you want. Just try to make sure that it's not going to ooze out. And this is great. Okay, got a little fold in there. All right, and I got one more. And fold them over, pinch them. Okay, now see, I don't want to leave that. If I leave that, then that's definitely going to ooze out. Okay, now if the perforations here were open, that would be okay too. I'm going to flatten them just a little bit, but you want to be careful because you don't want to squish them too much. Okay, now I'm going to put them in a 375-degree oven for 16 minutes. And just put that on there. Now, ordinarily, if we weren't running out of time, what I would do is I would bake those for 16 minutes and then pull them out of the oven, and I would take the back of my teaspoon and make a little well in the center of it, and then put about a teaspoon of whatever kind of preserves that you like. I actually, in my cookbook, it's called a strawberry cheese Danish, but I have raspberry preserves today, so it doesn't matter. You can use orange marmalade, you can even use lemon curd if you want to, because then you're just going to cook it another 2 minutes just to make the preserves set inside there. And this is what it looks like when it comes out. There we go. Is that beautiful? Now the other thing is that when you take it out of the oven, so it cooks for about 16 minutes and they'll become a golden brown. And then what I forgot to do, I'm sorry, is I forgot to brush the ones that I have in there. You're supposed to brush it a little bit with an egg wash, and I forgot to do that. So, okay, so it's my first show, and that's the only thing that I really did really horribly bad. But that's what gave it this nice little golden, color. And when you take it out of the oven, you don't want to eat it right away because the cream cheese is like warm, so you don't want to do that. So you want to let it sit for about an hour. So these have been sitting for a little bit more than an hour, and that's even better. You can refrigerate these. As a matter of fact, if you're going to eat them the next day, you do want to make sure that you refrigerate them. They should only be out for no more than 3 hours, and that would be maximum because of the cream cheese. But look at how lovely those are. Take a bite. Mmm. 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 These are great. Listen, I so hope that you enjoyed this first episode of Anne's Table for Two. I'll try not to make any more mistakes on my next show, but don't count on it. It won't happen. I'm going to be making many more mistakes, and you know what? The one thing that I do remember about Julia Child, I saw this probably about 10 years ago. It was the funniest thing. And I felt so relaxed when I started cooking because of this. She took a duck or something out of the oven and she put it on the counter. You know how she is, very, noble looking. She said, "Oh, this is horrible," and she threw it in the trash right on television. I loved it. So I hope you love today. That's all for today. Thank you so much for being here. And remember, when serving only 2, there's no need to overdo. See you later.